Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things. Alright, I'm going to admit, it is hot here, like hot. I know it's hot everywhere else. Here in Canada, it has been sweltering. So the last couple of days, it's been in the 40s, 45 a couple of days ago, 42 yesterday. Today's supposed to be in the 40s as well. It kind of got me thinking though, why don't we cool things off just a little bit and do a little Christmas in July past video compilations? What I'm doing is I'm just gathering together some of my favorite past Christmas videos, putting it all together in one big compilation to cool us off during this heat wave. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I made. Today I'm going to be using a 14-inch wire wreath frame along with this 5-inch by 21-foot burlap in green and in red, some 6-inch cable ties, and I found this 2.5-inch wired ribbon in my stash. What a score! And of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. And here is your shopping list with everything that I used. You can take a screenshot of that so you can go out and buy your products. I am first going to start by cutting my deco mesh. I'm going to cut my burlap at 10 inches. So this is 5-inch wide burlap garland and I'm cutting it at 10 inches. So I'm going to be cutting 24 pieces at 10 inch of both the red and the green burlap. So a total of 48 pieces. And I'm just going to continue cutting those until I get my 48 pieces. Once that's done, we're just going to go over the wire frame. They have 4 wires that go all the way around the entire frame with the crossbars that section it off into sections. So there's 6 sections in total, and I'm going to be using the 2 inside wires. So first, I'm just going to use my cable ties, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to wrap it around that innermost inside wire. So it's the second wire from the inside, and I'm just going to attach a cable tie there. Now I'm not going to pull it really tight. I'm going to leave a little loop and I'm going to leave the end as well. We don't want to cut anything off. So I'm going to do that 4 times on this wire. So it's the second inside wire, and then I'm going to work on the second outside wire and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm adding 4 of those cable ties on there on the inside and then 4 on the outside as well. So that's a total of 8 per section on those 2 middle wires. So I'm just adding those cable ties on there, prepping it, and you can see here they're all attached on there. It does get a little bit loose. You can do one at a time if you want. I like to do all 8 at the same time, but it really doesn't matter. So my first bundle, I'm going to attach on that inside wire, so I'm going to prep that. Grab my burlap, fold it in half long side, squish it right in the middle. Then what I'm going to do is squish it at the bottom, gather it together, another squish at the top, gather it together. So we're basically gathering it at that cut end. Then I'm going to take that end and slip it right in between that cable tie that we attached on the inside wire. And I'm going to pull that nice and tight, making sure it's a good connection. Cut the excess off, and we have our first bundle all set. So my first one is red, and I'm going to go back and forth. So I'm going to go on the inside wire, then I'm going to go on the outside wire, and then I'm going to switch between red and green. So we grab that burlap again, fold it in half, pinch it right in the center, another couple of pinches at the bottom, a couple pinches at the top, gathering it together, and that's going to create our little bundle. Then we take that cable tie on the outside wire, overlap the previous burlap bundle with the green bundle, and then cut the excess off. So that's going to be my pattern that I'm going to work on. I'm going to work from a zigzag pattern, inside, then outside, then inside, then outside, and I'm alternating between the red and the green. So all of the inside wires are going to be red, and all of the outside wires are going to be green. Now you can use any colors that you want. You can use a natural burlap. You can use 1 color, 2 colors. It all depends on what you want. But here I flipped it over and you can see I've got 4 on the inside, 4 on the outside, a total of 8 per section. I'm fluffing it up a little bit just to kind of see how it's going. I love how this is. So now I've done one section and I'm going to finish all 6 sections the exact same way. And here we are. I'm just going to fluff it up a little bit. I have finished all my sections with that red and the green burlap, and I am loving this wreath so far. And really, I want the burlap to shine, so I don't want to put too much on here. All I'm really going to do is make a bow for this. And for that, I'm taking 2.5-inch wired ribbon. And I'm going to measure out 18 inches, and then I'm going to measure out a little bit more to 22 inches. So I'm cutting at the 22-inch mark. I'm going to do 2 of those at 22 inches. Then I'm going to cut at 18 inches, and I'm going to do 2 of those, and I'm going to cut another one. I show here at 10 inches, but I ended up cutting it down to 8 inches. So a total of the ribbon cuts for the 2.5-inch wired ribbon, I'm cutting 2 pieces at 22 inches, 2 at 18 inches, and 1 piece at 8 inches. That's going to create the bow that you see right here on the screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the 18 inches. This is going to be our tail. I'm going to fold it in half long ways, then fold it in half short ways. Then I'm going to take my scissors and cut on an angle, creating a dovetail. With that, I'm going to take all of my pieces and I'm going to use my stapler. If you want, you can use a hot glue gun. That's totally fine. I'm just going to use my stapler today. I don't feel like burning my fingers. And I'm going to create little tubes or little discs with each one of those. With the seam in the middle and facing down, I'm just going to lay my first piece down, crisscross the second piece, and these are the 22-inch pieces that I'm using first. Grabbing that 18 piece, putting it right in the center, then grabbing that 8-inch piece, putting that right at the middle as well. So I'm going to take it up, look at it, see how it goes. I'm going to grab a cable tie, and I'm just going to slide that cable tie right through that small 8-inch bow. Then I'm going to take our 18-inch piece, which is our tail, fold it in half, create a little V shape with that so I know where the center is, put that face down right in the middle of our bow, gather up that material, and then I'm going to put together that cable tie. I'm not going to tie it tight just yet because I'm going to feed a pipe cleaner right through that as well. That's how I'm going to attach it to our wire wreath frame. Cut that excess of the cable tie, flip it over, and then of course, you know my favorite thing, it's fluffing time. We are going to fluff up that bow and just make it fluffy and beautiful. And like I said, I found this in my stash, so I was really surprised when I found it. I'm like, I'm using this today for a beautiful bow. I'm going to bring back our burlap wreath, and we have our bow all made, and now all I'm going to do is attach it to our wire wreath frame. So I like to pick it up, make sure where I want it is exactly perfect, and well, I shouldn't say exactly perfect, but close to perfect anyways. Feed that pipe cleaner through the back, twist it a couple of times, cut off the excess, and our bow is nice and attached. And since I squished it a little bit, you know, I got to go back and fluff it up again. And you know I'm going to fluff up that wreath. I'm going to fluff up that bow as well. Because I'm addicted to it, and I know a lot of you out there are as well. Here is our final result, that gorgeous color of that ribbon, this 2.5-inch wired ribbon. The red and the green burlap just really makes this shine and make this a beautiful classic colored burlap wreath for your front door or above your mantle or wherever you want to throw it up. Here it is on my door in all of its glory. I am in love with this, and I hope you like this wreath as well. Here is the 18-inch grapevine wreath that we are going to be creating today, along with 1.5 and 2.5-inch wired ribbon and some of these gorgeous Christmas floral picks from Michaels that I fell in love with, some pipe cleaners, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. I'm going to start off just cleaning up my grapevine wreath a little bit. I do like that whimsical kind of wiry branches coming off every now and then, but I'm actually going to be donating this wreath to a school so they can raffle it off. So I really wanted to make sure it's all nice and cleaned up, and then kind of just take a look at it and see how I want to lay it out. I'm going to grab those Christmas florals and I'm going to do what I call a dry run. So for me, a dry run is I just lay all my florals out first, get an idea of where I want to place them before I glue anything down, and of course take all those tags off. Gotta take those tags off. And of course, using the wire and the florals, you can just rearrange it however you want. And once I've got that layout, I'm just going to take some floral wire. Now you can use pipe cleaners if you want. I decided to use this black floral wire, and I'm going to wrap around that main stem of our floral picks. And what I do is the smaller stems, I just put them up on their side and I just wrap the wire around the main stem, so I'm not wrapping down those little stems that come off. And then at the very end, I'm just going to tie it right to the grapevine wreath. I'm just tying the wire to the wreath. And for myself, I don't want anything to go anywhere, so I am going to lay down some glue. But if you don't want to lay down glue and you just want to use the wire, you can totally do that. And then at the end of the season, you can always change it up. Just take the wire off, take those florals off, and then you can add something new to your grapevine wreath and create a whole other wreath for another occasion. I'm just going to lay down the second floral, so I'm just putting it at the side here, and I'm exposing the other, about 3/4 actually, maybe half actually, of the grapevine wreath itself. To create a bow, I'm going to start with 2.5-inch wired ribbon, and I'm going to measure out 12 inches. I'm going to use my right hand, gather it together at that 12-inch mark, holding it in my left hand, and we've created our first tail. Then I'm going to lay it down good side facing up, gather at that 12-inch mark, bring it together, transfer the ribbon over to my left hand, and we've created a loop at the top, tail at the bottom. We're going to twist right at the center, making sure that good side is always facing up. Gather it together again at 12 inches. This time the loop we're going to create at the bottom. So the loop will come at the bottom. So we have a loop and a tail at the bottom and a loop at the top. And now we just continue on making our loops at that 12-inch mark. Gathering it together, bringing it to our left hand, making sure that our good side is facing up by twisting it in the center, creating our fourth and final loop. And then I'm going to just cut at that 12-inch mark, creating our second tail. Once that's all cut, I'm just going to grab a half piece of pipe cleaner, fluff it up a little bit, make sure everything's good to go, twist it around, and then this time around I am going to cut the excess off of that one, and then I'm just going to lay it flat, making sure it is how I want it to go. Fold over the edges, cut on an angle. That's going to create those beautiful dovetail finishes. And our segment number 1 is all done. But before I stop here, I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue on that first segment. I did cut it a little bit short, so I want to make sure that's not going to go anywhere. For our second ribbon, I'm going to use the 10-inch mark with my 1.5-inch wired ribbon, and I'm going to follow that exact same process. So I create a tail first, then I'm going to measure out 10 inches for all of my loops, and I'm doing 4 loops. And then at the very end, we're going to measure out that 10 inches again, making sure the good side's always facing up. Cut at that 10-inch mark, grab a half pipe cleaner again, fluff it up a little bit, twist it, and I'm not going to cut the pipe cleaner on this. We're going to use that to attach it to our first segment. So this is our second segment of our bow. For the third segment, I'm going to use this beautiful plaid that I just fell in love with at the store. I just loved the colors, very classic, very neutral, not so much of a bold red, but kind of a burgundy red and that burlap and a little bit of a cream color as well. So for this one, I am creating 2 tails, 4 loops, and we're going to do the same thing. Add that pipe cleaner on there, make sure everything is facing upwards or outwards, twist it a couple of times, and then we're going to fold in half and dovetail, creating that beautiful little finishing touch. My last segment I'm going to do at 6 inches, and I'm going to go back to that 1.5-inch wired burlap. So this is the 4th section we're creating, And I'm going to do 3 loops and 2 tails, grabbing that pipe cleaner once again. And this is a full-size pipe cleaner. Why I'm using a full size at this point is I wanted to make sure it goes around all the segments. So this is the last segment that's going to go on there. So it's a little bit thick. So I want to make sure that wraps around fully. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first and second segment of our bow, open up those pipe cleaners, wrap them around the back of our first segment, twist it off a little bit, making sure it's nice and secure in there. Cut off the excess and then fluff it up a little bit. Kind of make sure everything is the way I want it to go. For this bow, I'm going to have all of my tails facing in one direction. But if you want to have tails all over, you can move it around, have the tails going up or on an angle. For this one here, I'm going to have all my tails facing downward. I'm attaching segment number 3 now using the same method. And here we go, attaching our last segment on there, twisting it around. And then I'm going to cut the excess off for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my hot glue gun, add it right at that mark where we've twisted all the pipe cleaners, just to make sure everything's nice and secure. Once that's done, guess what? It is fluffing time. One of my favorite things to do is fluff, and y'all know I love to fluff up my bow, and this bow I just love and fell in love with it. I couldn't stop fluffing it, but our bow is all ready for our wreath. And just to attach our bow, I am taking some of that black floral wire that I used a little bit earlier. I'm chopping off maybe about 4 feet of it, wrapping it around the bow right at the center, twisting it a couple of times, and then I'm going to place that on my grapevine right in between those 2 floral picks that we added on there. And then I'm just going to twist it around the backside. Sorry, I did that off a camera, but you can kind of see in a couple of seconds here that I did twist it right around the back. I'm going to add some hot glue on there so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I was kind of thinking, I kind of want to finish this off a little bit. So I cut 3 little pieces of the striped ribbon. I dovetailed them, added some glue, and then I'm going to cover all the areas where I have wrapped wire. I didn't want the wire to scratch anybody's door or anything like that. So I thought this would be a perfect way to kind of hide all of that wire on there. Of course, this is totally optional. You don't have to do that. And of course, the last stage, continue fluffing. I'm fluffing up those floral picks. I'm fluffing up my bow. But here it is, our easy and simple grapevine wreath, using a couple of items that I found at my local Michael's, some ribbons, 2 of those Christmas floral picks, and look at this, just a gorgeous, really classic, really elegant, a timeless wreath that you can hang up year after year after year. And the star of the show, I have to say, is that beautiful bow. I'm going to be using 2 wire frames today. One is going to be 14 inch and the other is going to be 8 inches. And this 2.5 inch and 1.5 inch ribbon, we have kind of a Christmas tree geometric and a striped, along with some greenery, some of this red deco mesh tubing, some 8 inch cable ties, and of course, as always, my regular crafting utensils to create this project. Here is the materials list that I'm going to be using today for you to write down or take a screenshot for your shopping. I'm starting off with my 8-inch wire frame and some cable ties, and I'm going to attach the cable ties to the very outside wire and within that one section. So I'm not closing it all the way. I'm just leaving a little gap, and I'm going to leave the end as well. We're not going to cut that off. And I'm going to do 2 of those within this one little section. You can kind of see here how I've placed them. Then once I have those all in place, I'm going to take my 1.5 inch stripe ribbon, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around that wreath frame. So I'm going to start off with my hot glue gun, placing some hot glue down, and then I'm going to fold that edge right kind of where the section begins and fold it over onto itself in the ribbon. Then I'm going to unspool a whole bunch of the ribbon because I can't really wrap on that large spool, and I decided I'm going to roll it up. It will work a lot easier if I roll up that excess, and once I did, it went so much smoother. So I am taking my time wrapping it. This is sped up a little bit, so it looks like I'm doing it super fast, but I'm not. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around until I come to that first section where we put those cable ties. I'm going to bring that cable tie in between where I'm wrapping it and making sure that it's visible, because we are going to attach this small frame to the larger frame using the cable tie. So I'm just going to make sure that that's still visible and on the outside, and still continue to wrap all the way to the end. Then when I've wrapped it about 3 or 4 more times from the first cable tie, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the second one, making sure that that cable tie comes through and it is visible and we can see it. Once I get close to the end, I'm going to cut the excess off, save that for later because we're going to make a bow. Yes, we are. I'm going to wrap that around until I'm done, and then I'm just going to glue that end piece, creating that wrapped, beautiful wreath already with those cable ties visible. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with this geometric Christmas tree shape ribbon. This is 2.5-inch wired ribbon. These ribbons come from Costco, and I'm going to start the same way. Add some hot glue down there to start it off. Get it nice and secure, and then I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap till my heart's content. And I'm going to wrap all the way around until I come to that first section, and then I'm just going to stop right here, and then I'm going to take that 8-inch wire frame with the cable ties, and I'm going to feed a cable tie through the inside wire of the large frame and then through that first cable tie, as you see here from the smaller frame. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull each of them tighter and tighter and tighter until it's a nice secured fit. Once that's all done, really pull it tight, making sure it's nice and secure. Cut off the excess with my scissors, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So it's a cable tie right on the inside wire through the loop of the cable tie on the smaller wreath frame, close that off, and then I'm just going to alternate tightening the two until it's nice and secure on there, pulling it nice and tight, and then once that's done, just chop off those excess cable ties, and then I'm going to take, again, unspool that ribbon because I can't feed it through the smaller one, and I'm going to finish wrapping the ribbon all around the 2 frames. And of course, wrapping it around there, and at the very end, hot glue that down to make sure everything's nice and secure, cut off the excess, and we have our base all done in those 2 beautiful ribbons. Now I'm going to make what I call a lazy bow. I don't know if that's the correct term, but I'm using my 1.5-inch wire ribbon, and I'm going to be cutting those pieces at 12 inches. Then I'm going to cut some at the 10-inch mark, and then I'm going to cut more at the 8-inch mark. And I'm doing maybe about 4 or 5 of each, and then my last one is going to be the 6-inch mark that I'm going to do those cuts with as well. And I did this for both the striped and the geometric shape, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to staple the very end. You can use your hot glue gun if you want. I just decided to use my stapler today, and we're creating little teardrop shapes, if you will, of our ribbon. Now, I didn't end up using as much of the geometric shape ribbon as I originally had planned. You'll see later on I was kind of fiddling around with it and it was a little bit too much, but I did add it in the end. As well, we're going to use the deco mesh tubing. I didn't measure any of this, so the loops are probably maybe 4 or 5 inches, and I'm just bundling them up, maybe about 4 or 5 loops on each end, grabbing a cable tie, attaching it right in the center there, and then I'm going to pull that nice and tight. And then I'm just going to cut the excess of the deco mesh off with my scissors, and then cut the excess of the cable tie off. And then we have our little bundle already made, and I'm going to make 5 of these bundles, just eyeballing the lengths of those loops. Now we have everything ready on my desk. I'm going to start creating that lazy bundle. So the idea of this is just to have a lot of ribbon, a lot of stuff happening right at the top. And you can kind of see here, I'm kind of guessing or second guessing myself with that geometric Christmas tree ribbon. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to use that. I'm not too sure. So I kind of just went ahead with the striped ribbon, gluing that all down, the larger pieces first, gluing down some of our tubing bundles, and then I start working on these smaller ones. So I'm working from largest to smallest of our ribbon, and you see here I do add some of the other ribbon on there with the stripes, and I'm adding the last few ones on there, and I decide with the smaller ones I am going to add that Christmas tree ribbon in there just to fill in some spaces right at the top. You can kind of see it open a little bit, so I wanted to fill it in, so I'm going to use that ribbon as well. And then we're going to take a Christmas ornament, a nice glittery one, throw that right in the center, and then we're going to add some greenery in there as well. Like I said, I wanted this bow, or this lazy man's bow, to be just an explosion, and I think we achieved that. The ribbons are crazy. That bow is crazy. I thought maybe this might be too much, but I'm going to say at the end, this wreath really did make me smile. Halfway through, I was kind of like, I don't know about this, Dave, but really look at it on my door. It is just an explosion of red, white, and green, an explosion of Christmas. And then, of course, we have that glittery ball right in the center to finish off our Christmas wreath. I'm using a wood tree trunk slice. This has some bark around the edges, and I'm also using various sizes of Christmas ornaments. I have a couple different sizes there. This plastic see-through terrarium, I think it's called, and of course a little Santa ornament, some Epsom salts. I know it sounds weird, but trust me on this. I'm going to use my regular crafting utensils, and here is my shopping list if you want to create your own little craft today as well. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out all of the ornaments from the boxes, and then I'm going to take off the little hooks right at the top. I don't need them, so I'm going to take them off. There was also a hook right at the top of the terrarium. I think that's what it's called. So I took that off as well, and then I'm going to start on my base. So I'm going to use the largest of my Christmas ornaments, and I'm going to place 3 of them right on top of the base. I'm going to use some wood glue for this because I'm gluing it down to a wooden base. So I'm starting off with the 3 largest. I'm also going to add a little bit of hot glue right at the edges there because I really want this not to go anywhere. And then I'm going to place that little plastic terrarium right on top of those 3. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of figure out where I want to put the rest of my Christmas bulbs. You can kind of see I take it, I put it to the side, see if that's where I want it to go. If I'm happy with it, then I lay down some of that glue. And for each bulb, I am putting about 3 points of contact. So you can kind of see I'm putting a couple there at the side, a third one, holding it in place for a little bit just to make sure it's dry. Then I'm going to move on to my next one. I kind of just place them around, do that 3 points of contact with the glue. And once I'm all done, look at this. We've got kind of a defying gravity sculpture, if you will. I'm loving how this is turning out so far. It was a really quick and easy craft. Of course, we're not done yet. We still have more to do. I'm going to take apart some Christmas picks. I had these just in my storage, and all I'm going to do is take apart the leaves and those berries, and I'm just going to use my hot glue gun and glue them in a couple of places at the bottom, right in the middle, and then at the top as well, just to add a little greenery in there. We always love greenery at Christmas time. I always think it's so beautiful. And of course, we're just finishing that off with some hot glue. And then I'm going to take my little Santa there. He had a little hook on him, so I'm going to take that off, place him right in the center of that see-through terrarium. And then I'm going to throw in a whole bunch of hot glue to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. And once he's all glued, you can kind of see him right there already waving to us as he's skating around. There's all my greenery and my Christmas bulbs. The very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Epsom salt and I'm going to put in a little bit at a time, move it around with my finger right there. I don't want to overfill it because I don't want to bury the Santa Claus. But when it's all done, here it is, our wooden base with that greenery, our bulbs, and of course, our skating Santa waving at us saying, "Ho, ho, ho, Merry Christmas!" I am going to be using this 12-inch wooden wreath base along with some nautical rope. These come from the Dollar Tree. Some of these burgundy velour or velvet Christmas bulbs, 2.5-inch wired ribbon, and I'm using some 2-inch velvet ribbon. This is not wired ribbon. And some Christmas picks with some berries, and I'm going to be using some of that small twine as well, and my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. Here is the shopping list for everything that you need to create this wreath. I'm starting off using our natural jute rope and our wreath base, the wooden wreath base. All I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a little bit of hot glue and the end of our rope. Just glue that down, wrap it around a couple of times such that the rope is on that glue so it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to add a little bit more glue and just continue wrapping my rope all the way around, adding a little bit of glue like you see here every now and then. Once I'm done wrapping that one roll, all I do is I come back, add some glue down again, glue the ends at the back side, and then all I'm going to do is push that rope right into the glue, hold it in place for a little bit until it dries halfway, add some more glue, and then start at the end of my second roll. I used about 2 3/4, 2.5 of these rolls of the jute rope to complete that 12-inch wreath frame, that wooden base, just to get it completely covered. And once we do, we have the start of our wreath all ready to go. Then I'm going to take that thin jute rope or twine and I'm going to cut 9 pieces at various lengths. I didn't really measure it, I just kind of did it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those Christmas bulbs and at the very top where the connection is, feed the twine right through it, and I'm going to knot it several times. So about 3 or 4 times I'm going to knot that. And I have the greenery picks as well. These are greenery, small little greenery picks with little berries on there. Cut the excess of that twine off, and that's how we're going to hang our Christmas bulb from our wreath frame. And then I'm going to take those little picks, add some hot glue right at the very end, and I'm just going to feed it through the hook, and I'm just going to let that dry while I do the second one. So I'm going to add 2 of these little picks at each tops of our Christmas bulbs after I put that twine on there, just to add a little Christmas flair to those beautiful Christmas bulbs. And then I'm just going to set that off to the side, let that dry, and I'm going to do a total of 9 of these bulbs. So I'm doing the exact same thing for each of them, tying the twine on there, and then I'm going to hot glue those little Christmas picks right at the top as well. And again, I'm doing 9 of them. I know there's 12 in the pack, and I saved 3 of them for another project, maybe in the future. For my 2.5-inch wired ribbon, you can see that there was an elastic around the center. It made these really awful marks right in the middle. So I was really unhappy with that. And it went about halfway through the roll. So I didn't want to use the ribbon, but I also wanted to use this ribbon because I really loved it. And then I thought of this idea of just hot gluing that unwired ribbon, so non-wired ribbon, which is the velvet right in the middle of that 2.5-inch wired ribbon. So all I'm doing is I'm taking little sections at a time, adding some hot glue down, and then I'm adding that velvet ribbon right in the middle. And can I tell you, I freaking loved this at the end. I'm not going to lie. At first I thought, oh, this is not going to work. But then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? This is actually going to work. And what I'm doing here is because I cut off the ribbon that was destroyed, I'm going to measure it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it at 24 inches. So here I'm measuring out 24 inches. So I'm cutting two pieces at 24 inches of the 2.5-inch wired ribbon with the 2-inch velvet ribbon. I'm going to cut one piece at 18 to 20 inches and another piece at 16 to 18 inches. So the two pieces for our bow, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue right at the end, curl it underneath, and then just attach it together, creating a little disc shape or a little tube, if you will. And then for our 18 and 16-inch pieces, I normally do a dovetail, but I wanted to try something different, so I'm just cutting our ribbons on an angle. I apologize, I did this off camera. You can see it right at the bottom. I wasn't right in the center, so I apologize for that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take those two long pieces, crisscross them together, take a cable tie, lay that right in the center, and then what I'm going to do is put that aside and I'm going to overlap my tails, squish it right in the middle, create that V so I can see where the middle is of our tails. Then I'm going to bring back the bow with the cable tie, place the tails right there in the center, and I'm going to slowly gather all of my ribbon together with the cable tie. And I'm not going to tie it tight just yet because I am going to take another cable tie and I'm going to insert that right in between the ribbon and the cable tie, cut the excess off, and then of course it's fluffing time. So we're going to fluff up our bow a little bit here. There's only 4 loops, so I'm not fluffing for too long. And the final touches of our little bow, I wanted to add some pine cones on there along with some greenery as well. I only ended up using 1 pine cone, but I'm hot gluing the greenery on there as well. And I had a couple of the greenery with the red berries left over, so I'm going to use that right at the center. And then our bow is all ready for our wreath. And now we have everything ready for our wreath frame. I'm making sure that I'm using the front side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang those Christmas bulbs that we attach the twine to onto our wire frame at various lengths. And I'm making sure that my bow doesn't cover my Christmas bulbs. So I put the bow on there, measured out, and then I tied the first bulb on there. And for the second one, I'm doing this one just a touch longer. And again, all I'm doing is I'm doing double knots to attach those bulbs onto our wreath frame with the twine, and you can see here I'm adding the last one on, and I used 9 bulbs in total. And once I'm done with my double knotting here, I cut the excess off, and I'm going to add a whole bunch of hot glue right down there because I want to make sure nothing goes anywhere. I want to make sure nothing comes undone, so I'm adding a big dollop of hot glue on there, and then we're going to work on attaching our beautiful bow. So I'm closing together that that cable at the back, and I'm not going to close it just yet because I'm going to feed another cable through that, and you can see that right here, and I'm going to attach that on our wire frame. Sorry, not the wire frame, the jute rope frame. I say wire frame all the time, it's always in my head. And then once I attach that on there, I'm going to pull the cable tie nice and tight. Once it's securely on there, I'm going to cut the excess off. And then, of course, I'm going to arrange for my pictures our beautiful bulbs. I'm loving this color, that velvet, the velour, whatever you want to call it. I'm just loving the color. A nice burgundy with that natural burlap, some greenery, and that pine cone really came together, and that black and white edges of that 2.5-inch ribbon. Just loving how everything came together with this wreath. Here it is on my door, a beautiful contemporary wreath, nice and easy, nice and simple. And for those that don't like working with deco mesh, this is a perfect wreath to create for the holiday season. To create this wreath, I'm going to be using a 14-inch wire wreath frame along with this 12-inch wood hanging decor piece, some of these handheld car wash mitts, acrylic paints. I'm going to use a paint pen today, and of course I'm going to use my regular crafting utensils to create our beautiful Grinch wreath. And here is all the materials I'm going to be using for today's project. To start off, I'm going to take some white acrylic paint and I'm just going to lather that onto that wood base round. I'm just going to use my paintbrush, get a nice even coat, let it totally dry, and then I'm going to come in with this green color. So this is, I think it's called leaf green, and I'm just going to get a nice good layer on there, nice and even. Let that really dry, and once it's all dry, I'm just going to grab a pencil and I'm going to do a Grinch face on there. So I'm just going to do the outline. And then I'm going to use acrylic pens to create the face. I'm going to use black and yellow. If you don't have acrylic pens, you can totally use a Sharpie if you want, or you can use a brush and acrylic paints. That'll work just as well. Once I'm finished doing that Grinch little face there, I'm going to let that completely dry, just set it off to the side, and then we're going to work on our base. So these are just little mitts used to wash your car or outside, whatever, to wash it with. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that little arm piece off, so like the piece that goes around your wrist. Then I'm going to lay that good side facing down, turn over the wreath good side facing down as well, add some hot glue, and just start wrapping that little mitt all around. When I saw these, I was like, this is the perfect Grinch color. I was so impressed with it. So I am using the hot glue gun to put those gloves on there and wrap it all the way around. And I'm going to use a total of 5. So I picked up 5 of these. And again, all I'm doing is I'm cutting off the little wrist area. You can leave it if you want. I just found it was easier to cut them off for that transition between the two. And then I just start gluing them on. I flip it over to make sure that transition seam looks nice and good. And then I just continue on with that hot glue gun and wrapping that around, holding it into place a couple of minutes just to make sure it's all secure. And when it's all done, look at this. It is so soft. It is so cute. I'm loving the base. Our little face, our little Grinch face is all done. I'm just going to take some hot glue and then I'm just going to press that right on the back side of our wreath frame. Make sure it's nice and secure. Then I'm going to take a full-length pipe cleaner. This is just a 12-inch pipe cleaner. Wrap it around itself to create a little circle. Insert that in some glue. Add some more hot glue, and then I'm just going to take a piece of spare ribbon that I had, overlap it right at that mark where the glue is, and just press that in there just to kind of, tidy it up a little bit. So now we're going to put on our Santa hat, and I'm just using a whole bunch of hot glue in the front, and I'm also gluing the back of it as well to make sure it's nice and secure, and I'm going to glue down our little pom-pom as well. And once that's all done, there you go. A nice, quick, easy wreath that just screams fun. No? I just love how this turned out. Again, it was so easy, it was so simple, and I had a lot of fun making that little Grinch face with his little smirk there. A cute little craft, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Today I am using a rail wreath board from Unique in the Creek to create our project, along with 10-inch by 10-yard black and white poly deco mesh, some 1.5 and 7/8 inch wired ribbon, this little snowman face decal, little Frosty the Snowman, and of course we can't forget his top hat as well, some coordinating pipe cleaners, and this cute little black and white snowflake ornament along with some regular crafting utensils. And here is our materials list for our project today. I'm going to start off doing my cuts with our deco mesh. I'm using my cutting mat and my rotary cutter. If you only have a pair of scissors and a ruler, that works totally fine as well. Today, our magic number and our cuts length is going to be 10 inches. So I'm cutting my deco mesh today at that 10-inch mark. I'm just taking my rotary cutter, measuring out the 10 inches, and then I'm just going to pile them up off to the side. And I'm also at the same time going to cut my ribbon. And I'm cutting the ribbon at the 10-inch mark. So I have a solid black burlap, this snowflake ribbon, and this black and white striped ribbon, all cut at 10 inches as well. So our poly deco mesh is 10 inches by 10 yards. I'm cutting 21 pieces at 10 inches. I'm using 1.5 and 7/8 inch wired ribbon, and all of my ribbon, 7 pieces, will be cut at the 10 inches each. So that's 7 pieces for each ribbon. Once I have all my ribbon cut, I'm going to fold it in half, cut on an angle, and I'm going to create dovetails on both ends of our ribbon. Now to create our bundles, I'm using 3 pieces of deco mesh, a pipe cleaner, and I have this little cardboard tube that I got from a previous roll. We're going to use that to create our tubes today, and I have all my ribbon at the side as well, and some clips. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our deco mesh curl side up, manufactured edges at the left and right, top and bottom are our cut edges. We're going to grab our paper tube roll and we're going to roll that deco mesh all the way around it. And then we're going to take the paper tube out, use our clip, and then we're just going to secure that and put that off to the side right now. Again, manufactured edges at the left and right, top and bottom are cut edges. We're going to grab our paper tube, roll that deco mesh around it, and then we're going to take that paper tube out, grab our another clip, and then we're going to place that off to the side. And now we're going to do our third one. Third time's the charm. We're going to do the exact same method to create our little tubes, or as I like to say on my channel, our little cannolis. Then once those 3 are done, I'm going to lay them on top of each other in kind of a crisscross pattern, almost making a star or a snowflake, if you will. And then I'm going to take my ribbon, 3 different kinds of ribbon, and I'm going to place them in a crisscross pattern, the same I did as our deco mesh. We're going to lay that on my table, and then I'm going to gather the center together, all that deco mesh and all that ribbon, place it in between my 2 fingers, grab a full-length pipe cleaner. I just slide it along the palm of my hands, and then I transfer the deco mesh and ribbon to my right, while my left is free for me to twist right in the center to create our first little bundle. And then of course we're going to fluff up our ribbon a little bit and our deco mesh, and there is our first bundle we've created. So again, we're using 3 pieces of deco mesh, rolled those into tubes by using our little cardboard tube, using our clips to hold them to the side, layering them in a crisscross pattern, layering our ribbon in a crisscross pattern, scrunching it and gathering it together in the center, adding that pipe cleaner, wrapping it around the back, twist tying it to create another beautiful bundle ready for our wreath. And what I'm going to do now before I put everything together, I'm going to trace the outline of my wreath board on a piece of black and white fabric, cut it out using a pair of scissors. This is going to be my backing, so I'm doing it now before I add anything to there so I could trace it easier, and then I'm going to just lay that off to the side once it's all cut, and that'll be our finishing touches. And now it's time to put our little Frosty the Snowman face on there. This is just a decal, so it's like a sticker. So I just unpeel it, make sure it's nice and centered, lay it down. And of course there's a few bubbles on there, but I'm just going to take a credit card and I'm just going to get all that air out there, and it'll be nice and flat once we do that as well. So we're ready to assemble our wreath. Here are all of our little bundles, and I'm going to be using our pipe cleaners. This is just the pipe cleaners we attached, and we're going to attach it on the first row and the first and second holes. So all I do is I take those pipe cleaner stems, feed them through that first row with the first and second hole, twist tight in the back, cut the excess off. I'm going to take a look at it and I'm happy with that. And now the next one what we're going to do is we're going to use the last hole and the very edge of our rail at the bottom. Twist tie it around, cut the excess off. We've got the 2 at the edge. And now for the next one, I'm just going to use the bottom 2 holes. So on the very end hole row, if you will, I'm going to use 2 pieces or 2 bundles. And then for the 3 in the center, I'm just going to use 1 bundle on the 2 holes at the bottom. I'm just kind of showing you here where I'm putting them in. You can see they're going in the last 2 holes of this row as well, and then the next one. So we start off with 2 bundles, then we're going to do 1 bundle, 1 bundle, 1 bundle, and now I'm at the very end, and we're going to do the same thing we did in the first time around. We're going to use the top 2 holes on the last row, twist tie it around, and then I'm going to use the bottom hole and the edge to add our 2 there. And the reason why I'm only doing the singular ones is because I don't want it too bulky where his face is, and I want to see the face. So if I put 2 bundles there, it'll cover up his face. Then all I'm going to do is add some hot glue right on top of our connections of the pipe cleaners, just to make sure it's nice and secure. Put that to the side, and then while that's there, I am just going to, while it's dry, I'm going to attach our bow. So I'm doing the bottom to middle row and then twist tying it in the back, adding a little bit of hot glue right there, and now I'm going to put it over to the side and let that dry. With our 7/8 inch black and white striped ribbon, I created a little bow just to add a little bit of a coordination there, and then I'm just going to hot glue that on our top hat. Then I'm going to take a full pipe cleaner, again in that center row right at the bottom, to attach my little ornament on there. Nice and easy, just twist tie it right into place, cut the excess off, and then of course we're going to add a little cable tie right at the top 2 holes, and this is how we're going to hang our wreath. So I just took an X-Acto knife and I cut 2 holes through our decal, and then place that cable tie right in there for our little hanger. And now, of course, he has to have a top hat because he's Frosty after all. We're going to put a little bit of hot glue on there. I'm going to put the hat on a little bit of an angle and add a little bit more hot glue where I feel it needs a little more strength. And then, of course, we're going to fluff up that bow, fluff up all that ribbon and all that deco mesh for our cute little black and white Frosty the Snowman, all ready for my studio door, just to hang in all of its glory. We have that beautiful black and white ribbon with the snowflakes on there. I love this ribbon, and that glittery black and white striped. And of course, you have to smile when you see Frosty smile, right? Here he is on my front door, and he is in all of his glory, just smiling away, making me smile, all ready for the winter season. Today I am using a 14-inch wire wreath frame, some pink 10-inch by 10-yard deco mesh. I'm only going to use the light color pink today. This really cute 8-inch Santa sign. I have some lollipops that I got as well, and these little bendable, I don't know what you would call them, little twisties, I guess. A whole bunch of 2.5 and 1.5 inch wired ribbon in pink theme, some coordinating pipe cleaners, and of course, as always, my regular crafting utensils to create our beautiful pink wreath today. And here is the materials that I used to create it. Starting off, we're going to make our working wire wreath frame, and this is my 14-inch wire wreath frame. You can see it has 4 wires going all the way around, and then those crossbars as well. I'm going to work on the 2 inside wires in between those 2 anchors, so that one section right there. I'm going to start with my first pipe cleaner stem right in the middle of those 2 inside wires. So I'm just going to wrap that right around the inside, and then of course I'm going to do that again and again for all 6 of those sections. Once that's all done, we're going to work on the outside. Now I'm going to be using the 2 inside wires and that crossbar for our outside round of our pancake wreath. So I'm just feeding through our pipe cleaner, making sure those 2 wires and the cross wire are in between the pipe cleaners, and then I'm just going to twist it about 3 or 4 times, and then I'm just going to lay that flat, and I'm going to continue on doing that same method all around 6 times. So we have, when we're done, we have 6 stems on the inside, which is our inside round, and then we're going to have 6 stems on the outside, and that's a total of 12 working stems for our pancake wreath today. And for our deco mesh cuts, I'm using my cutting board, and I'm also using a rotary cutter. If you only have a pair of scissors and a ruler, that works totally fine as well. And our magic number today is 30. So we are cutting our deco mesh today at the 30-inch mark. I'm just going to take that rotary cutter, measure out my 30 inches, and then put them all off to the side. And like I said, I'm only going to be using that pink, light pink deco mesh. For our ribbon, I'm going to cut at 13 inches, and I have this white polka dot and pink ribbon. This is 2.5-inch wired ribbon cut at 13 inches. I also have this red, white, and polka dot ribbon. We're going to cut that. There's 1.5-inch burlap pink ribbon cut at as well, and this kind of white checked ribbon with pink and white. Now for our deco mesh cut lengths, I'm going to be doing 12 pieces cut at 30-inch lengths. For our ribbon, I am going to be doing 1, 2, 3, and 4 different kinds of ribbon, all cut 6 pieces at 13 inches to create our wreath. Now these ribbon lengths do not include the bow. I'll bring those in later on. Once we've cut everything, I'm going to dovetail the ends of my ribbing, folding it in half, cutting on an angle, and finishing both ends. Now we can create our beautiful pancake for our pancake method. I'm going to do this curl side down. I usually use my little decorative rock here to hold it down. I just showed you can use scissors if you want. And what I'm going to do is the cut end, I'm just going to fold it under just a little bit, just to kind of hide it a little bit. I'm going to level it off or flatten it out with my fingers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to anchor my thumbs, and I'm going to gather that all together with my fingers. So I'm going to do the whole length of this the same method. So as always, I love to say, let those fingers do the walking. And when we come to the other cut end, I'm just going to use my fingers, fold it under like we did right at the beginning. And then I'm just going to make sure I have my center. And then I'm going to open up our first pipe cleaner stem. So I am working on the outside ones first. And then I'm just going to place the middle of our bundle right in between those 2 pipe cleaner stems, twist it a couple of times, and then for the pancake method, I'm just going to take the ends and overlap them a couple of inches, 2 or 3 inches, and that's going to create that beautiful round ruffle shape, otherwise known as the pancake method. So again, we're taking our deco mesh, curl side facing down, gathering it together all right in the center. Once we have it all together, I'm just going to pinch that center, open up our next available pipe cleaner stem, place the middle of our bundle right in between, twist it a couple of times, making sure it's nice and secure, and then we're going to overlap the 2 ends about 2 or 3 inches, again, to create that beautiful ruffle circular pancake bundle. I'm going to finish off doing that outside round, so that's 6 on the outside, doing the exact same method that we've been working on, attaching it onto those stems, and then working on the next one. Then I'm going to bring out the ribbon that I've already cut. You can see the first round is all done, and I'm going to use 1 2.5-inch ribbon and 1 1.5-inch ribbon per stem. So I'm going to grab my polka dot one, and I'm going to grab my kind of a checkered looking one, overlap it, fold it in half to find my center, gather it together using my fingers, and then I'm going to create a V shape, bending it, and then just pinching right at the end, and that's going to create a little bit of a fan effect. And then that denotes where the middle is, so you know where to place that right in between your pipe cleaner stem. Twisting it a couple of times. Once that's all nice and secure, grab your scissors, and then you can just cut off the excess of that pipe cleaner, and then just a little bit that's exposed, you can just bend it down like I'm showing you here. And of course, I love to fluff my ribbon, so we're going to fluff the ribbon just a little bit. And then I'm going to continue on doing the same method using 1 2.5-inch ribbon and 1 1.5-inch ribbon per bundle. Now I'm alternating between 4 different kinds of ribbon. If you only want to use 2 different kinds of ribbon, that's totally up to you. If you want to use 2.5 only or 1.5-inch ribbon only, you can totally do that as well. So once I'm done my first round, I'm going to fluff it up a little bit, but you can kind of see where we're going already. And now it's time for us to work in the center, which is that inside round. And we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to find my stem, open it up a bit, grab my deco mesh, curl side down, anchor it down, fold it right at the end, and then we're going to anchor those thumbs, and then we're going to gather it together with our fingers, creating that beautiful pancake method. Grabbing it right in the middle, and then we're going to place that middle right on that pipe cleaner stem, and this is the inside that we're working on now. People have asked why I do outside and then the inside. For this particular method, I want the inside deco mesh and ribbon to overlay the outside. So that's why I'm working from outside to the inside on this particular pancake method, just so we can have that overlay and that look that I really want. And then once I'm finished with my deco mesh in the first round, we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the outside to the ribbon on the inside. Again, I'm alternating between different patterns. I'm within the same pink color, so I'm happy with that, and I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. I'm very surprised I like it as much as I do, because I didn't think I was going to like the pink for Christmas, but here we go, and it's all ready for our final touches. And what are our final touches? Well, we're going to create a beautiful bow today, so this white polka dotted pink ribbon, I am going to do 2 cuts at 24 inches and then another one at 22 inches. This striped ribbon, I'm going to do the same thing. With this pink ribbon, I'm going to do an 18-inch cut and a 20-inch cut. And for our last ribbon, I'm going to do a 16 and a 20-inch cut as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tails out, which are the 20 inches and the 22 inches, and then I'm going to dovetail both ends. So again, folding it in half, and then cutting on an angle to create those finishing touches on both sides of the deco mesh, of the ribbon. Those will be the tails. For all of the other ribbon, I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue on the end, fold it over, and create a little disc shape, if you will. And now it's time to assemble our bow. So I'm taking our largest piece first, and then I'm just going to overlap them with the seam in the center, in the middle, facing down. So you can kind of see here what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to add just a very small amount of hot glue. This just helps keep it together while you're working on the bow. I like to do this sometimes as a little tip, I guess, if you will, or trick if you want, to creating your bows, but I like to do it not too much. And then, of course, we just overlap all of those little bundles that we have. And for the very last one, I'm going to measure out 10 inches for a tail, 6 inches for 3 loops, gathering it together and meeting it all into my left hand, and 6 inches for those tails. Measure out another 10 inches for our tail. Add that full pipe cleaner, wrap it around the center. I'm going to fluff it up just a little bit, twist it to make sure it's nice and secure, and then I'm going to overlap the ribbon, fold it in half, cut on an angle to create our beautiful dovetails. Now for this, ribbon number 1, I'm doing 22 inches and 2 cut at 24. Ribbon number 2, 1 at 22, 1 at 24. Ribbon number 3, 1 at 18 and 1 at 20. Ribbon number 4, 1 at 16, 1 at 20, and the tails I am doing 6 loops, and I'm going to do 10-inch tails for that. And now I want to put it all together, so I'm getting all my ribbon for the tails together, overlapping them, gathering them in the center, and then folding it in half like we did previously to create that beautiful fan effect. And I'm just going to pinch the center so I know where it is. Then I'm going to place a cable tie on the bundle we created with the good side facing down. I use my ruler sometimes just to make sure I've got the center properly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the tails, and then I'm going to add a full-length pipe cleaner right in the center, squish that all together, and then put together that cable tie. And I'm going to make sure before I pull it tight that I have my center. It's off just a little bit, but I'm going to fix that, and then I'm going to pull it really tight and cut the excess off. Now it's time to add our final piece of our bow right in the center with those pipe cleaner stems. Bring those around the back, twist tie them right into place, give them a really good couple of twists so they don't go anywhere, and cut the excess off of that pipe cleaner and not the one we're attaching to our wreath frame. And of course, it's fluffing time. We all love it. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm addicted to it. So we're going to fluff up this beautiful pink bow, and when it's all fluffed up, look at that. I was so loving this bow. Now I'm just going to cut those little stems of our lollipops. These are kind of a fabric, so they're kind of really cute. And then with the sign, I'm just going to take full-length pipe cleaner stems. There's 2 holes, one at the top, one at the bottom. I'm going to attach those on there, and then I'm going to glue on those little lollipops right at the back of our sign. So I'm just using some hot glue to glue it all down and make sure that it's nice and secure, just to add a little bit of oomph on there, if you will. Then I'm going to use those little twisties we saw right in the beginning with a highlighter, twist it around, and that's going to create our little squiggles, if you will. Twisties, squigglies, whatever you want to call them. Just our little decorative pieces that we're going to attach with the finishing touches of our wreath. Then to attach our sign, I'm just going to feed the pipe cleaners right through the back. Find out where the center is, where I want that sign to be placed. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to twist it nice and securely right at the back, and I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. And for the bow as well. Just feed that pipe cleaner right through the back, find out where you want it to put it, twist tie it right around the back, cut the excess off, and then I'm going to take my hot glue gun and just glue those 3 pipe cleaners in place so they don't come apart in the end. And now it's time to add our little squigglies on there. I didn't like the wires on there. I placed one and it didn't really work very well, so I thought I'm just going to cut the wire off and glue those right into place. These little squigglies I got on Temu along with the little lollipop and the sign as well. And now of course we're done with everything. All our finishing touches are on there. What's left to do? Fluff. So once I finish fluffing, we have our happy smiling Santa right in the center and our pink themed Christmas wreath all ready for my front door. And I have to say, I am totally convinced pink is great for Christmas, for a girl's room. Just absolutely gorgeous. I love how it turned out. Originally, I was very doubtful, I'm not gonna lie, but I think in the end, this pink color won me over for Christmas, and that's Smiley Santa, obviously. Just cute as a button. Today we are going to be using a pizza pan. I'm going to have 2 of them, some mitts and gloves and hats. These are just from the local dollar store, some 2.5-inch wired ribbon and some black satin ribbon. Paint acrylics in black, pink, white, and orange. I'm going to be using acrylic pens today, but you can use paints and paintbrushes along with my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. And here is the materials list that I used to create our pizza pan wreaths today. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pizza pans and some sandpaper, and I'm just going to rough up the surface really well. So the reason why I'm doing this is it's a shiny surface on the pizza pan already, and I'm going to be covering this with white acrylic paint. So I want to scratch up the surface so the paint can adhere to it a little bit well. I'm going to wipe it down with a very damp paper towel, make sure there's no sandpaper residue left over. Then I'm going to take some white acrylic paint and my paintbrush, and I'm going to paint that entire pizza pan, the top of it, the sides of it, and then of course that little rim as well. Once it's all fully covered, I'm just going to set it aside, let that dry completely before I move on to the next step, which is to create a little bit of a texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add white acrylic paint into a bowl, and I'm going to add, I think it's 3 tablespoons of baking powder, and I'm just going to mix that up. And I want a little bit of a consistency of like thick oatmeal, if you will. So I add a little bit more paint, stir that up a little bit more until I get the consistency I want. And as you can see, I was just fooling around painting a little face on our little pizza pan, so you can kind of see where we're going with this. And then I take my paintbrush and I'm going to add that mixture on there. So with this mixture, it's a little bit clumpy, which is exactly what we want. We want a little bit of texture on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab my paintbrush on there, creating even more texture. So I add a little paint. I'm going to dab it a little bit with the top and the sides of my paintbrush just to create some texture, and I'm also going to do the sides. Once that's all done, we're going to put it to the side again to let it completely dry. Once it's all dry, now it's the fun time. I'm going to use acrylic pens. So this is acrylic paint in a pen format, which is really great for drawing. So you can see here, I'm just taking my pen and I'm drawing a little face on here. This is the snowman's little nose. Of course, it's a little carrot. And then I'm going to draw some eyes, some cheeks, and a little mouth. Again, using those acrylic pens. If you don't have acrylic pens, like I said, You can totally use a paintbrush and acrylic paints, or if you want, you can use colored Sharpies. That'll work just as well. So I'm going to let that fully dry once I finish creating our little face. And here's the second one that I did, and I'm just going to outline his little carrot nose as well, adding a little detail on there to create these cute little faces. And once those are all dry and I'm all done that, I'm going to add our finishing touches on there. Here I'm just adding some pink to make those little rosy cheeks, or pink cheeks if you will. And you can see how well these acrylic pens really do work. I just love working with them, and I've used them a lot in the past as well. Once it's all dry, we're going to throw on a little hat here. So this is his little toque. This is in gray color, and I just got these at the dollar store. I'm going to place it down, and then I'm going to use a copious amount of hot glue to really make sure that that hat and those gloves don't go anywhere. So you can see I'm putting the hot glue on the front and the back, and I'm also going to add a little bit of hot glue underneath the fold, how I want it to fold over. So you can see I folded it over here. Then I'm going to add some more hot glue onto those mitts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these mitts kind of cover his face a little bit, his or her face, or whatever you want to say. Just kind of covering his face, and you can just hear him saying tee hee 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 hee. Just a really cute little moment here with making our pizza pan wreath. And of course I added some greenery in there. And to hang it, all I'm going to do is, this is a full-size pipe cleaner in white. I'm just going to crisscross the ends, twist them a little bit, just a couple of times. Then I'm going to take those ends and wrap it around the full pipe cleaner as well, just to make sure it's nice and secure together. Then at the back of the pizza pan, I'm going to do a dollop of hot glue, place my pipe cleaner hook in there. I'm going to take a little piece of 2.5 inch wired ribbon. This is just scrap. Throw that over the back just to clean it up a little bit. And then once it's all dry, we have our hanger to hang our gorgeously cute pizza pan snowman. Look at that. I love it. And of course, through my head, it's all tee hee 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 hee. But here is our finished product. I added some little bows using black satin just right at the hat on the ends of those mitts. But these guys, they just make me smile, and I really hope they make you smile as well. Here is the second one that I did. I just had so much fun making these. These were really nice and quick and easy to do. I loved making them. And then of course, here they are on my door. You can see that texture that we used with the paint and the baking soda really came through with these pizza pan wreaths, and I love how these both turned out. Something really cute, something really simple for you and your family to enjoy. I'm going to be using a 14-inch wire wreath frame, this 2.5 inch gold, black, and beige ribbon that I got from Costco, this microfiber duster from the Dollar Tree, some fun fur, faux fur garland, and then of course I have some black pom-poms that we're going to use as well, some wooden beads. I don't know the size of these, sorry, but they are available on Temu, and some Christmas picks, some electrical tape, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. We've got our materials list right here on the screen for you to write down, take a screenshot for your shopping list. I'm first going to start with our wire wreath frame, and I'm going to create a crescent wreath frame for this. So what I'm doing is I'm using my heavy duty wire cutters, and I'm cutting out an entire section of our wire wreath frame. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those two inner wires along with a piece of electrical tape, and I'm just going to wrap those two around. Then I'm going to add in that inside wire, and then finally the outside wire. And I'm going to do a couple pieces of tape for each section. Now, if you don't have electrical tape, I highly recommend it. It is great. You can pull it and stretch it. It's great for doing something like this where you're making a crescent moon wreath or something different, especially for wire. It works great. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that microfiber duster with the good side facing down, flip over my frame with the good side facing down, and I'm going to use my hot glue gun to attach and wrap that microfiber around that crescent edge. And then I'm going to Just glue that down, hold it in place a bit, and then I'm going to move it around so it fits on our wire frame, adding more glue as I go, working around, attaching that on there. And I'm only going to use one of those microfiber dusters. Again, they come from the Dollar Tree, nice and easy. If you don't have that, you can just use chunky white yarn if you want. That'll work perfectly as well. Now I'm going to take that 2.5 inch wired ribbon and I'm just going to lay that right beside the edge of that microfiber duster, glue the end, wrap it around, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little more glue as I'm wrapping it just to make sure it doesn't move on me. So adding that glue on there, and then I'm just going to wrap until my heart's content. And since this is visible, I am taking my time with the wrapping, making sure it's nice and even as I go. And that beautiful ribbon I am just in love with. At the very end, at the end of the crescent, I just add some more hot glue. Press that down, and then I'm going to take my scissors and cut the excess off the back side. So here we have the beginnings of our Crescent Moon Santa. Right now I'm going to add my pom-pom on there just with a little bit of hot glue right at the very edge on the top crescent shape. Push that right down into the hot glue as I fluff it up, because you know I gotta fluff up. And then I'm going to add my garland. So this is faux fur garland in black, and I'm cutting pieces off. I'm going to add some hot glue right in the center, place that right at the edge, and then flip it over, add some more hot glue right at the back on those tabs, and wrap those around the back side. I'm doing 2 layers because I wanted this portion to be a little bit fluffier than the garland was, the faux fur garland was. So I'm putting 2 layers down, adding my second layer, doing the exact same thing. Really, I'm just adding hot glue on there, folding it over to the back side, attaching it to our wire frame. And then once that's all done, we have our wooden bead right in the center. Add a little hot glue on there, and that's going to create our little Santa nose. And for some finishing touches, I'm just going to take some greenery and some berries, and I'm just going to add that right at the top in between that ribbon and the fun fur with my hot glue. Just adding it on there just to create a little more oomph or pizzazz for our wreath. And then once that's all done, we have our Santa Crescent Moon wreath all ready to hang on our front door with that pom-pom, with that microfiber as his beard, a little wooden nose, and of course that fun faux fur and our little greenery there just to add a little Christmas touch to it. The beauty part about this wreath is you can use any ribbon you want, any colors that you want, mix and match it up if you want. A great fun wreath. Here is the angel kit that I purchased off of Unique in the Creek. Let's grab my scissors, open it up, and see what is included. So we have a triangular shaped wreath board, pre-cut deco mesh in 10 inch by 10 inch. 1.5 inch gold ribbon. This is wired ribbon. This stuffed hair angel. We have some angel wings. We have to have wings for an angel. 6 inch cable ties and some pipe cleaners. And of course, I'm going to use my regular crafting utensils that are not included in the kit. Here is a list and the website where I purchased the kit. If you can't find the kit or if it's sold out, here's a list of all of the items for today's project. I'm going to start off making our bundles. Now, we don't have to cut today because our deco mesh is pre-cut. All I'm going to do is take my cable tie and I'm just going to close it a little bit, just leaving a loop and a tail. I'm not going to fully close it. Then I'm going to take my square, make it into a diamond shape, bring the bottom point to the top. Now we're going to create a little diamond shape. Draw an imaginary line right down the center, and then we're going to gather it together down that imaginary line. So once you gather it all together, you can kind of see it looks like a Lorax mustache. We've got that big mustache shape going on there. I'm going to turn it on its side, and then I'm just going to pinch right at the bottom and gather it together at the bottom. So we create kind of little angel wings, if you will. Then we're going to grab that cable tie, feed it right at the edge there, and I'm coming maybe about 3/4 of an inch, half an inch from the bottom, and then I'm just going to pull that really tight to keep it together. cut the excess off, and there we go. We've created our first bundle. And like I said, it kind of looks like angel wings, which is very fitting for today's wreath. So again, we're taking our deco mesh square, a cable tie, preloading that cable tie, and then we're going to create a diamond shape, fold it over, creating a triangle shape, draw our imaginary line, gather it together such that we have that little mustache shape. Then we're going to gather it right at that bottom, slide the cable tie in there, pull it tight, cut the excess off, creating another angel wing. I'm going to do the exact same process, and I'm going to do that in the white and in the gold. So you see here I'm doing the gold now with the exact same process we just did previously. Now, all in total, I did 28 bundles for the white, 9 bundles for the gold. So that's a total of 27 bundles. So if you're doing one color or two colors, we need 27 bundles in total for what I'm going to create today for our angel. Here is that triangle wreath board. You can see it has a whole bunch of rows of the cutout circles already, and they come in pairs. So there's little sets you can see here, they're paired together. And what we're going to do is we're going to use one row, we're going to leave the next row blank, use another row, leave that row blank, so on and so forth all the way to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preload with the cable ties that are available in the kit, and I'm not closing them off. You can kind of see there that I just allow it to snap a couple of times. We created a little loop, and then I move on to the next one. So our full row is there with all of our open cable ties, and that's what it looks like at the back. So again, we're going to skip the next row, then we're going to add cable ties, skip this row, add cable ties, skip this row, add cable ties. Now once that's all loaded, it looks like this, and then I'm going to move on to our next row. So you see it's a little bit different. We have spaces in between our sets or our pairs of holes. I'm pointing it out right here. What we're going to do is we're going to put a cable tie in the sets, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a cable tie in between the two sets, sharing the holes. For that row, skip a row, and then we're going to do it for row number 2 as well. So once it's all loaded, here is what our loaded wreath board looks like. We are all set for our deco mesh. I'm going to start at the very bottom row. I'm going to start with my white deco mesh. So I'm placing that right in the cable tie that's attached to the wreath board. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure the cable tie that's holding the deco mesh together is on the inside of the cable tie attached to the wreath board. Whoa, that was a lot to say. So you can kind of see here when I pull it, it doesn't pull out. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. So again, we're just putting that deco mesh right in that cable tie attached to the board, making sure the cable tie on the end of our deco mesh bundle is on the inside. Pull that other cable tie tight, cut off the excess, and our deco mesh is nice and secure in there. And the pattern that I'm going to use for this row here is I'm going to do 3 white bundles on one side, 3 white bundles on the opposite side like you're seeing right here, and then in the middle what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 gold deco mesh bundles right in the middle. Again, 3 at one side of the white, 3 at the other side of the white, 3 in the middle of that gold, and once it's done, I'm going to move on to our next row, and again I'm going to do 3 white deco meshes on each side, and then in the center I'm going to do 2 pieces of the gold deco mesh, attaching those on there, cutting the excess off, and then I'm going to move on to my next available row, where I'm going to do again the 3 and the 3 of the white on each side, and this time around we're going to do one of the gold pieces of deco mesh, cut the excess cable ties off, and then guess what? We're moving to the next round, where this time I'm going to do 2 white on one side, 2 white on the other, 1 gold right in the middle. Once that's all done, again, moving on to our next row, and we're going to do the same thing. 2 of white on each side, 1 of the gold right in the middle, cut those excess off, and then our final one, I'm going to do 1 white on each side, kind of on an angle so it looks like a collar, 1 gold piece right in the middle, and then I'm going to take the white deco mesh and place it right on top of the gold, such that it looks like a collar. Once that's all done, we have the angel's robe, all complete with that gold underneath. I pick it up to take a look at it. I'm happy with that. So now we can continue on with our angel wreath. The next thing I'm going to do is, you can see there's the row, it's the first row, and I'm going to use the 2 inside holes and attach a cable tie in there. Again, we're not going to attach it tightly on there, we're going to leave it looped. This is going to be the hanger for our angel wreath, so I want to get that on there before I forget about it. Here's the back side, and you can see this is how we can attach it to our door or our wall, wherever we want to put it. Right here, I'm just figuring out how I want to attach the angel wings, whether they're going to face down or whether I want them facing out. I decided in the end I wanted them to face out, and I'm just kind of figuring out where I want to place those angel wings. I'm going to use the existing holes on the 3rd row, and in the 2 middle rows, I'm going to attach a cable tie, and then at the very end of the wing, attach another cable tie that's going to attach to that cable tie on the wreath board. This way, it'll be nice and secure on one end, and it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other wing. So attach a cable tie on the wing clip right at the end. Put that through the cable tie on our wreath board, and then once that's all together, then I'm going to pull all of those cable ties nice and tight. So right now they're kind of loose, but then once everything's attached, I'm going to pull it all tight, cut those excess tails off of the cable ties, and we have 1 point of attachment for our wings. I wanted a second point of attachment, so on the same row at the very end, that hole, I put another cable tie, wrapped it around the base of that wing, and I did the exact same thing on the other side. The very last hole in the same row, of course, you can choose any holes to put it on there if you want it lower or higher. This is where I thought it was perfect for how I was going to do my wings. For the back of the angel head, there was wires already, but I took those off. I wanted to use cable ties instead. So all I did was I took my X-Acto knife and I very carefully cut out 2 holes where I'm going to place 2 pieces of the cable tie. So you can kind of see here I have one at the top and one pretty much at the middle of the back of the head. Then with our wreath board facing down and our angel head facing down, all I do is I feed those cable ties through rows 1 and 2, those 2 middle holes. So we have 2 points of contact for that head, and it's not going to bob around, and it's going to stay nice in place. We're going to pull those cable ties tight, cut the excess off, but be careful not to cut that hanger cable tie we have already, and our beautiful head is attached for our angel. Now, of course, we do need a finishing touch, and it wouldn't be a Dave's Recent Things without doing a bow. So I'm going to take some of that glitter, it's 1.5 inch glitter ribbon, cut one piece at 18 inches, cut the next piece at 14 inches, and one piece at 4 inches. And then I'm going to do one really long one cut at 36 inches. Now this 36-inch piece, I'm going to fold in half, cut on an angle to create a nice little finishing touch of the dovetail, and I'm going to do that on both sides of this. Now this is the tail, so I'm just going to put it off to the side for now, and what I'm going to do for the other pieces is I'm just going to, on the first little one, fold it into thirds. So the first half, add a little line of hot glue, fold it over, the second half, fold that over as well, and then once that's all dry, put it to the side. We're going to take my stapler and create little discs with our remaining ribbon, and this is the 18-inch and the 14-inch ribbon. So once that's all done, I'm going to grab a cable tie, and I'm going to grab that tail as well as grab a pipe cleaner to create our little bow. So the seam is at the bottom, right in the middle. We place those 2 pieces right on top of each other, find my center, flip it over so the good side faces down, put my cable tie right in the center, again finding that center, grabbing our tail, gathering it together into a V shape, placing it face down, making sure it's right in the center of our cable tie, and I'm also going to place our pipe cleaner in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that cable tie, and again, we're going to loosely put it together at first. I'm not pulling it tight right away. I'm going to flip it over, make sure it's in the center. I have to make adjustments here because it wasn't really in the center, which is totally fine. We can adjust it. That's why we're not tightening it right away. Once I'm happy with that, I make sure everything is put together and in the proper place. Then I'm just going to squish right in the middle, pull that cable tie, and make sure everything is attached nice and tightly. Cut the excess off of the cable tie, grab our little piece of ribbon, add a little bit of hot glue in the center, place our ribbon right down on there, and then I'm going to add more hot glue at the back and fold over that piece of small ribbon. This is going to cover our cable tie so we don't see it, and of course it adds a little finishing touch on there. Add some more glue, fold that top portion over, hold it there for a bit, and then of course we have to do it even though it's a small bow. It is fluffing time. I'm going to fluff up that little bow, and just as a little added bonus on there, I decided to use just a little pearl. So I have a small little drawer of pearls. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue right in the center and one little pearl just to kind of finish off our little bow for our angel. A nice angelic bow, if you will. Then I'm going to take that bow, and the pipe cleaners, all I'm going to do is find a couple of holes right in the center. It actually ended up being where that last gold deco mesh was. Twist it in the back, cut off the excess, and then I'm going to add a little bead of hot glue on there. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's going to stay attached, and then I'm going to cover it with just a scrap piece of that gold ribbon, making sure it's all nice and covered, and it looks nice on the back side as well. Once it's all dry, here we go. We have our little angelic angel just smiling away with that gold ribbon, the white and gold robe, and of course, those angelic wings just stretching across my door. It just makes me smile, and I love that little gold halo with the gold hair as well, and the finishing touch of that pearl on our big bow. A beautiful angelic wreath from Unique in the Creek. I was going through my Christmas stash and I found this singular poinsettia. It's white with silver in the middle, and it kind of gave me inspiration for today's wreath. So I'm going to be using the small Unique in the Creek wreath board. I'm going to be using some 10-inch deco mesh. This is poly deco mesh in white and normal deco mesh in green. Some Christmas bulbs in silver. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use yet, but I have all of these. This is 6-inch cable ties that I'm going to be using to attach the deco mesh, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create our poinsettia wreath today. And here is our shopping list and the materials that I'm going to be using to create our wreath. I am going to start off with my cutting mat, and I'm also going to be using a glass cutting board, and I'm going to be using my burning tool today. If you don't have that, you can use a pair of scissors, rotary cutter, and a ruler to cut your deco mesh. I'm going to lay out my deco mesh, and what is our magic number today? It is 10. So I am cutting my deco mesh at that 10-inch mark, and I'm just using my flat tip, and I'm just going to glide it along that glass cutting board. So I find my 10-inch mark, bring down that wood cutter, and just kind of trace over that 10-inch mark. You can kind of see I didn't do it all the way, but the second time around it worked a lot better. I find if you go a little bit slower with your cuts, it'll grasp all of that deco mesh and just seal it together with that wood burning tool. So again, I'm cutting it at that 10-inch mark. So I'm using 10-inch by 10-yard poly deco mesh in white and deco mesh in green. And for the white mesh, I'm cutting 24 pieces at 10-inch. And for the green, I'm cutting 5 pieces at that 10-inch mark as well. Now that I've done all of my cuts, it's time to make our little leaves and our petals. So I take a cable tie, and I'm not tying it all the way. So you can see there I have a little loop, and then I have a little bit excess at the end. So we're going to take our deco mesh, and then I'm going to turn it such that it's a triangle shape. Then I'm going to take that bottom point, all the way up to the top to create our triangle. Then I'm just going to line up the sides, and I'm going to take some time here to line up the sides. It's more important to line up the sides than it is the tip of the triangle. Once I have it all lined up and I'm happy with it, I'm going to press it down just a little bit to have that tip kind of really shine. Draw an invisible line right down the middle, and then we're going to gather that deco mesh all together. And then it should make like a little bit of a mustache look. So you know the Lorax, the child story with the Lorax, with that mustache? That's the look that we're going for here. Then I'm going to lay it on its side, and then I'm just going to squish the ends or the center together, and that's going to create the petals. Now we'll take our cable tie, wrap it around, and then we're just going to pull it nice and tight, making sure it's all gathered right at that end. Grab my scissors, cut the excess off, and we have our first little petal bundle all ready for our wreath. And of course, I'm going to make a whole bunch of these. And again, we're taking that cable tie. We're not tying it tight. We're going to take that deco mesh, fold it over into a triangle shape, and then we're going to gather right in the center, place it down on its side, gather the middle part, take that cable tie, wrap it around, and then we're just going to fully tighten it up, cut the excess off with our scissors, and those are our petals. So I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to prep my cable ties first. I'm going to make my little bundles, grab those cable ties and attach it, creating all of those wonderful little bundles to create our poinsettia wreath today. So I'm just going to do this over and over and over again with the white, and with the green, what I'm going to do is, again, we're going to use the cable tie, starting off with just closing it a little bit. And then with the green deco mesh, because mine is so curly as you saw in the beginning, what I'm going to do is I am going to just flip that over, and I'm going to use my decorative rocks just to hold them down a little bit. You don't necessarily have to do this. It's just how my deco mesh turned out. And then what I'm going to do is right at the bottom, I'm just going to gather everything right down that imaginary line in the middle, just like we did before. But this time we're going to do something a little different. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to take that deco mesh at the right hand side, and we're just going to bring it over such that it's overlapping the one on the left side. And this is going to create the leaves for our deco mesh wreath. And then I'm going to take that cable tie, just like we did before with the white petals, and I'm just going to attach it right at the end, gathering it together, cutting the excess off, and we've just created our first beautiful leaf for our poinsettia. And again, that cable tie, put it together, flip over our green deco mesh. I'm going to put my rocks down, grab that imaginary line, gather it all together, creating a little bit of a rounded bow tie. Then that right hand side, we're just going to fold it over, covering the left hand side, add that cable tie at the end, and that's going to create another leaf. So I'm going to do this 5 times to create those wreaths. Here is our Unique and the Creek wreath board. You can see it's kind of a firm plastic. It works really, really well, and it has sets of holes in rows 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the 2 in the middle, that's where you can put your center sign, if you will, or centerpiece. And you'll notice at the very top there is 4 holes. So there's a set of holes that I'm showing you here in each of the rows, and right at the very top there's 2 holes with divots. That's where you can hang your wreath, so you can add a cable tie or a pipe cleaner there. And the row number 1 I'm going to use for the leaves. Row number 2, 3, and 4 I'm going to use for our petals. So I'm going to start off using row number 2, and I'm going to put a cable tie in every 2 sets. So there's a set of 2 everywhere, so you can see there I'm putting that. I'm going to skip that single center, no, I shouldn't say center, single circular hole. Say that 10 times fast. And then I'm going to skip that, and then I'm going to go to the next double set. So you can see here in our second row, I've got all of my cable ties in there. I haven't tightened them tight because this is how we're going to attach our petals. So here I'm grabbing my petal that we've previously made. I'm going to insert that in the cable tie, and I'm going to make sure the cable tie on the petal itself is on the inside of the cable tie attached to the board. That way it's going to hold it in there. It's not going to come out. So it's just an added security, if you will, to make sure that that pedal is nice and secure and it's not going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to do this for the entire second row, just adding those petals on there. Once it's all done, now we're going to move to the third row and we're going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to take my cable ties, feed it through the sets of circles, and I'm going to do that one for each set. Once that's all done, you can see that here, and of course I'm showing you the back side, how nice and full it is. And we're doing the exact same process. We're adding our petals right into that cable tie, twisting it nice and tight, making sure it's good, cutting off the excess as we go. And once you get it all set up and your board is preloaded, it does go pretty fast, which is kind of nice. And now we're going to do our final row right there. And for this one, we're going to do something a little different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preload the sets of 2. And then what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to load up these shared holes. So I'm showing you right now how I'm doing the sets, which is exactly the same as we did before. You're just taking a cable tie, putting in one of the sets, loosening it just a little bit, and then here the back side I'm showing you I have my 4 already in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another cable tie and I'm going to put one through a shared hole, and then I'm going to come back and put it through the next. So we have 4 on here now. I'm going to add an additional 4 using those shared holes as well. So it's going to be in the center a total of 8. So once I finish doing that, you can see right here we have that set, and then we've got the shared hole with our cable ties, and I'm just going to finish off doing the shared holes before I add my petals in. And then how do we add the petals? Just the same as before. We insert that into the loop of our cable tie, pull it nice and tight, cut the excess off, and then of course each row of petals covers the petals before of those cable ties, and here we go, is all of our white petals on there. And then on the back side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add our leaves on that outside row. I'm going to start with the first set after the center. So this is the exact same method that we used before, is I just feed the cable ties through there. I'm not going to tighten them really tight because I want to feed my leaves right through there as well. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I do one set, I skip 2 sets, do another set, skip 2 sets, all the way around. So it's a total of 5 of the leaves that I'm attaching. And of course, we're just going to feed the ends of those leaves on there, pull it nice and tight, that cable tie, and then we have an attachment of our leaves. And again, I'm going to do 4 more of these, which is a total of 5 leaves for this poinsettia wreath. And once those are all attached in there, I flip it over, and of course I am so happy. But before I do that, I'm going to actually attach another cable tie to use as a hook right at the top. I spoke a little bit briefly in the beginning. So we have a hook here. Here it is flipped over, and look at this. I am so happy with this. And using inspiration from that original poinsettia that I saw, I'm just using some glittery silver bulbs, using some hot glue, and I'm gluing some of those right in the center to kind of copy that inspiration poinsettia that we had previously. And here is that poly deco mesh with those white petals, those green leaves, and of course that glittery centerpiece that I just love. And then of course our poinsettia inspiration is right here with the white leaves. I mean, it looks a little, bad because it was in storage for so long, but that was our inspiration for our white poinsettia wreath today. Here it is hanging in my door in all of its glory. I'm going to be using a 13-inch wide white grapevine wreath along with some greenery and some flocked greenery, these little wooden house ornaments that came in a pack of 3, some of these bottle brush Christmas trees, there's some red bulbs and some white berries. I'm going to use some flocked pine cones as well. And I'm going to be using these LED fairy lights. There's 20 in a pack, along with my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. Here is my materials list for our creation. I'm starting off with my white grapevine wreath, my flocked florals, and my greenery as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start placing my flocked greenery in there. So this is greenery that just has a little spray coating on there to look like snow. The idea for this wreath is I wanted to create a winter village. So what I did was I started off on the outside and I kind of marked where I wanted my florals to go. So basically half of the wreath I want to cover in that flocked and the greenery as well. And I'm going to add full pieces in, and then right at the center I'm kind of cutting them in half and then cutting little pieces as well to fill up that center. And just to break up that flocking and all of that white a little bit, I'm taking some of my greenery on there that isn't flocked, and I'm just going to hot glue that every once in a while, like I said, just to break up all of that white. You don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to. It's totally up to you. I just decided to add some of that greenery in there just to break it up a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is I'm taking those wooden houses. These are just ornaments, and I'm going to do a dry run. If you've watched me for a while, you know I like to do a little bit of a dry run when I'm placing everything. And once I'm happy with that, then I start coming in with my hot glue gun and just placing that in there with a little bit of hot glue on the back, just creating our little Christmas village. And of course, hot glue is hot. I just burned myself. Yes, yes, yes. I know. I burn myself all the time. It is the risk of the trade, I guess you will. But once I'm finished with my little village there, I'm going to add those bottle brush Christmas trees on there. I have white and green. There was a total of 3 of them that I decided to put on there. And I just took the little stems at the bottom, or the little place marks, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm just going to hot glue those trees in there. And it's a total of 3 that I'm adding in, 2 on one side, 1 on the other, to create a nice, beautiful little effect. And of course, I do pick up the wreath from time to time, like you're seeing here, just to make sure I'm happy with everything. Once I'm happy with that placement, I'm going to move on to the next step, which is adding some of these little flocked pine cones on there as well. So I love adding different textures, especially when you're using a lot of the same color. So if you're using a lot of the white or red or green or whatever you're using, I love to add a little bit of texture in there, so the pine cones really do add that as well. And for our fairy lights, I'm just going to wrap those around the Christmas trees. I'm going to put it on just to make sure my batteries work before I put everything in there. And then I'm going to throw a light right in one of the homes just to kind of light everything up. And I'm just going to use some hot glue at the back of the house, hold it there in place, and then I'm just going to continue on adding those Christmas lights on there. And then with the battery pack, all I'm going to do is take some hot glue, just hot glue that right on the back there, so we have access to the battery pack so we can change it and we can turn it on and off. Here it is with my studio lights off. You can see it's all lit up, and I'm loving how this is looking, and I love the warmth from those lights. And to add just a touch of color, I decided to use those red Christmas bulbs and just glue some of those in place. I think I have about 6 or 7 of them in there just to add a little bit of color, and our wreath is all done with that beautiful, I always just imagine kind of a wintry mountain, kind of the Swiss Alps when I look at this for Christmas, with all of our flocked and all of our snow. Here it is with the lights off in my studio and those glittery lights, those Christmas trees coming to life. And look, somebody's home. I wonder if they're putting up their Christmas tree. Here it is on my door in all of its glory, with that great white grapevine wreath, all of our Christmas village in its glory, and at night it's all lit up. Those beautiful Christmas trees right in the background, casting that warm, beautiful light on a snowy, cold evening. And